work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with the real people about real jobs. So this week, my guest is Valerie Lyons. Now, I've known Valerie professionally for a while. And full disclosure, she coached me, and she's very instrumental in providing me with some tools to navigate the workspace. So we had a great conversation, and Valerie gives us some very useful advice on how to show up at work and how to declare what we want. You know what? Let's just jump right in. Good afternoon and welcome, Valerie. Welcome to Career Exploration Saturday. I'm so glad to have you here.
It's great to be here, Ebony. Thank you for inviting me.
So, I like to start all the conversations with, tell us about your 16-year-old self. Tell us about 16-year-old Valerie. Where was she? What did she want to be when she grew up? Did she have it all together?
Absolutely not. A 16-year-old Valerie was very shy. I was a follower. I was not a leader. I was very insecure, although you wouldn't know it. I just had a lot of self-doubt, and I wasn't comfortable in my body. I was very skinny. I wanted to have curves. So I always felt a little out of place. I had a weak eye muscle, and that had me feeling really uncomfortable about myself. The people that I grew up with, were kind, but people, if they met, first, young kids, so I dealt with a lot of teasing and all of that. And it was tough. I was getting high, hanging out. I did not have a strong sense of myself.
Okay. And when you finished high school, did you go straight into college? Did you work? Did you go into training?
Thank God I applied to 2 colleges. One was Queensborough Community College and the other was York, but my grades weren't strong enough for me to go to a 4-year. So I went to Queensborough, which really was a turning point. I mean, I was always a bright student. Mm-hmm. But I never really wanted, I had this thing too when I was younger about you're trying to be white. I was in gifted classes, so I was told these things and I bought into it because I didn't have a strong sense of myself. So I was a bright student who basically didn't really apply myself. And thank God I got into Queensborough Community College. And that was like the turning point because I really got into school. I started, really going to school, and I had some great professors. I remember having a professor for statistics who said, you're going to learn. He said to the class, you are going to learn this. I'm going to break it down and make it easy. And I got like an A, and that was like such a boost because I had this thing about math. So Queensborough was cool. I majored in secretarial science. I called my associate's degree my money-making degrat because I was able to start working as a secretary and did temp work, and that really was great. And then I went on to get my bachelor's at Baruch. And then years later, after I graduated from Baruch, I went on to get my master's from Hunter.
And you have a master's in?
My master's is in education. I majored in school counseling, but I ended up working as a rehabilitation counselor in substance abuse. So, I mean, again, having a degree was great, and you never know where it's going to take you. Right. So it was cool. So I stayed in working in substance abuse treatment for many years.
And how is that? My first job out of college and when I was in grad school, I worked in a substance abuse treatment facility, and I found that it wasn't for me. So how did you kind of feel that was a place where or a population that you can work well with?
Yeah, after working a year at I worked for Samaritan Village before it was Samaritan Daytop. After working a year at Samaritan Village, I started interviewing. Because working in treatment is tough. It was gritty. I mean, I learned so much, but the bottom line is I soon got promoted.
Okay.
While I was in the process of interviewing, I ended up getting promoted, and then I ended up staying at Samaritan for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
starting as a vocational counselor and then moving up to a director position. So yeah, it was really, really tough work. I learned so much about myself and other people. Never thought I'd work with as many people that have been formerly incarcerated, LGBTQ. I mean, it was like such an eye-opening experience to working with different groups and like learning about myself as well. So it was, I mean, it was tough work, but it was great work, and it helped me in my career.
Okay. Okay. So is there because I know you work in college advising and students in master's degree program who are going into vocational counseling. Like if you are interested in going into the human services field, how would you tell a young person to be able to like manage a caseload and manage people? Because human services is really about, even though you're providing a direct counseling experience, you also have to manage a lot of things. So how could a young person coming into this field, counseling, be able to navigate that space?
Really, it's not easy. And so let me just say that the programs I advise in Hunter are the mental health counseling, school counseling, and rehab counseling program. And it's really it's not an easy when you first start working as a counselor. There's so many aspects of the job that you need to tend to.
Mm-hmm.
Prayerfully, you get good supervision. And I'll tell people who come into the field, seek support, whether it's your supervisor or a colleague or someone from the outside. Really, it's your responsibility only because you want to protect yourself and you want to get the best guidance possible. Sometimes you have to go out of your way to get good supervision and counsel. So that's one of the things I really stress, to really help you understand how to manage because the counseling is a small part of what you do. And that's the other thing. People coming into the field think that it's all about sitting in front of somebody and counseling them, and that's it. No, it's a documentation. It's making referrals. God knows it's getting low on the staff. Getting along and negotiating the environment. And the other thing I always tell folks, don't resist understanding politics, the politics of the organization, which are not easy, but learn how to embrace it, because if you're going to stay in the field, whether you're a counselor or administrator, knowing how to navigate the politics is very important. And look for a mentor.
So let's go a little deeper with navigating the politics, because you do a lot around networking, right? Like you wrote a book, The Power of Networking from Inside. What exactly is networking? Why is it so important? And why does knowing how to network and then understanding politics go hand in hand in career development?
Well, that's a powerful question. Okay. So my approach to networking is listening and being of service and just sharing and connecting and finding out how you can be of support to someone else while listening what opportunities might present themselves for you. So it's not just, it's being of service, really. Okay. In an organization, sometimes people wait for people to introduce you to other people, and oftentimes people feel intimidated by approaching a manager or a supervisor or the president of the organization. So what I encourage people to do is to be courageous in their roles and make acquaintances, make alliances. You can't do this work thing alone, and you can't do life alone. So for those who are reluctant to connect with other people or feel they have to do life alone, I really encourage you to give that up, because it makes life easier when you have support. And my premise is that we're on the planet to support each other. Now, that doesn't mean that all of us will support each other, but my premise and my philosophy is that that's why we're on the planet. That allows me to step to anybody and introduce myself and find out what they're up to and how can we support each other in our role. You know what I mean? So that's how you learn the politics, because it's through communication and people pulling you up, pulling your coat, you're pulling you up and letting you know what's up in the organization, who to talk to, how to carry yourself. That's, you learn through communication. You learn about politics through building relationships.
And young people sometimes don't know how important it is to build relationships as they move from different workspace through different, phases in their educational life, that it's all about relationship building. And that it sounds to me that networking is not necessarily transactional, right? Like, just because you meet someone doesn't mean that there's going to be some type of transaction or you're going to get something right away.
Right.
You're building something.
Yes, it's about relationship building. And I also want to tell, I also would say to young people will look out for you. People will look. I remember when I worked at Samaritan, and this woman named Patsy Bretto, and I didn't have a clue as to what the heck was happening. And this woman named Pat, I always remember Patsy. Patsy would stop by. I shared an office like with two people. She'd stop by, peek into my office, and say, "How you doing?" She would always let me know she was present. I always knew that if I needed something, I could go to Patsy. So people will look out for you, and it makes a difference to put yourself out there. One of the things I learned early in my career, actually, it was later in my career, I learned this, that people are not always going to invite you to the decision-making table. Sometimes you have to request an invitation, sit down. So how about that? Sometimes you got to just sit down. So it does take some initiative to really understand how to negotiate the work environment, how to understand the politics. It takes initiative.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also do women empowerment seminars. What motivated you to start those events?
Okay, so I worked for Hunter on a grant for 11 years, which was a long time for a grant to last. That was the Oasis, Hunter College Oasis Work Study Project. Students had an opportunity to earn their master's degree while working in substance abuse treatment as vocational rehab counselors. Once that grant ended, I had a choice, right? I could have looked for another job, but what happened was, once that grant ended, I just started getting flooded with ideas around women empowerment seminars. I couldn't stop writing. It was crazy. I was like writing titles of seminars, and anyway, so I started my own business. I didn't have a clue what it meant to start your own business. That's a whole nother story, but I did that. I did, facilitated seminars, started coaching. I think that's around the time we met.
Yep.
And so it was out of it was like a dream or some kind of, I don't know, process that occurred where I really felt compelled to do the work, and it was really great. I really enjoyed it.
So out of those women empowerment seminars, is that also what started you into the world of coaching? Because you also are a life coach. Can you tell us a little bit, like, what's the difference between a counselor and a coach? Or
Okay.
And then how did you get into life coaching? Because everybody wants to be a life coach, right?
Yes. I got into coaching because I've always sort of been a coach. I've always sort of supported people around their goals and their dreams, and so I said, why don't I just go for training? And that was the other thing. I felt the need to get trained as a coach. Some people coach and they don't get trained, and that's fine. But I wanted to get the credential. And one of the things, the distinction between counselor and coach, is that counselors work with people on the past. So childhood issues, anything, and they also help people work through some obstacles or barriers that may be holding them back and they can't move forward, right? So it's a lot of past driven work, where coaching is all forward driven. It's all action oriented. So when you're working with someone in the capacity of a coach, that person theoretically is ready to make change. They may have some resistance, but they really are clear about moving forward. So I know for myself, whenever I've worked with somebody and they've said they wanted something, but we can't seem to get past it because there's some stuff from the past that's holding them back and we can't move forward, then I know that's someone that would benefit from counseling.
And then is that when you make that referral, or do you continue in the?
I make the referral because it's clear that we're not going to move forward, and it doesn't, it's not worth it for them to pay me to do the work that I believe a therapist would be better suited doing. And although I have my license in mental health counseling, I'm a coach, so I'm not putting on the counseling hat when I'm coaching.
Okay, all right. So most of your career, you've worked with adults in the substance abuse world, and you're also at Hunter College. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what's it like to be an adjunct professor? How have you been able to navigate this whole virtual classroom and working from home with your college students?
Sure. So, I was an adjunct at Hunter. I'm not really teaching as much now. So my primary role at Hunter is, my title is Assistant Director of Student Affairs. So I work with undergraduate students and I support them in leadership development type activities. There's a student council that I help to manage with another student. And then there's Honor Society, the National Society of Leadership and Success, that I also help to manage. In terms of my role as an advisor, working remotely, thank goodness, was an easy transition because we do online advisement. We have an online calendar, so students schedule. So it was really set up well for us. So we didn't have, it wasn't any lag in being able to support the students. A lot of my work is via email. I do miss the interaction. Mm-hmm. So when you think about work, part of work is interacting with people, connecting with people, so it really was really startling to feel that sense of loss,
Yeah.
Working at home where you're doing the Zoom thing,
Right.
So that's been a bit challenging. And then sitting so much, sitting so much, because you're in the office, you're walking around, so it has been an adjustment in that regard. Mm-hmm.
And do you have any projects coming up? How can we support you? How can we, if parents who are interested in changing careers, because, jobs are changing, people are getting laid off. This is like a great time to start, evaluating and looking within yourself to see what my next move should be. So if we have folks that are interested in getting some coaching from you, how can we reach out to you?
Okay, so yes, I am coaching folks. I have a pretty small caseload because I have a full-time job, but I am available to coach. And my audience, even though I have folks who I work with who are younger, I really like working with the 50+ crew. I really do. I like working with the 50+ crew because there's so much going on during that time of our lives. And so, and my target audience is women, so people who are career changers. I recently did a webinar on job seeking in a pandemic for proactive steps towards success. And I do those kinds of webinars, and I incorporate that in my coaching as well, because although people are being laid off, people are working, people are finding jobs, but it's all about networking. And that's where that comes in. It's really, so yes, I do provide coaching. And I'm going to be doing a couple of women, sort of groups for women. I have a group that's coming that I want to create called Our Second Spring. Which I love, and it really is going to address some of the issues that women, again, between 50 in the 50+ range, face around, rediscovering yourself, balance, work-life balance, being a career changer. So I can keep you posted, and I can give you my my email address too.
Yes, please, because you know what? I have a friend who I would definitely like to refer to you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That would be so cool.
And I was going to also plug my book.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, so it's Power Networking from the Inside Out, where your career and your well-being meet. And the reason why I needed and felt compelled to conclude the well-being is because work is a part of what we do. It's not our whole life. And the self-care is like so important. So, so I talk a lot about networking. I dispel the myth of work-life balance, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no such a thing. All you have is your life, and you choose, what's the priority. And sometimes we need support around that, So I have the book, which I'm really proud of. And and I do a lot of work as a consultant. I just recently did some talks around social justice for Black and brown people. And that's been, with all that's happening now, it's, that's a conversation to be had.
Well, you know what? How is there any words of advice for a young person who may, or just people who are trying to navigate this whole Black Lives Matter in the workplace? Because it's a lot, we're home, we're being bombarded by a lot of images. We're constantly seeing people who look like us who are being killed, and then you have to get on these work and these Zoom calls, and sometimes you may be the only one in that space. And just emotionally as people, we're dealing with a lot, and then we have to show up for work.
You're absolutely right. And what I'll say is this, and I'll say this to anyone, as we all navigate the workplace, dealing with what we're dealing with, to declare in your speaking that you want to work in an environment where you're supported, where you have a voice, and where people are competent and kind. I just want to put that out as a declaration, because in my work environment, we talk about these things. I'm a co-chair of the Equity and Advocacy Committee at Hunter College within the School of Education. My supervisor, who is a white woman, acknowledges her racism. You see? So you have some institutions and some environments where this conversation is alive, and then you have organizations where it's not, right? So it behooves us, or I'm encouraging us to seek out others who you can collaborate with to get the support. And some of us need to actually get some therapy because of the trauma. So it's really seeking out the support wherever you can. And I'm really encouraging people to declare in your speaking the kind of work environment that you want to find yourself in, so that you can be supported no matter what's going on in your life. The worst thing in the world is to go through something and not be able to talk to your manager about it, or not feel you can get the support from your team. I have to tell you, I have that where I work, and I know it's a blessing. And I also know I declared it, because we have a power in our word. Our word is so be aware of what you're asking for and declare what you want.
You know what, Valerie? That is a perfect place to end it.
Oh boy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ebony. This is great. I really appreciated sharing with you.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much. So some takeaways, and these are some really powerful takeaways. And again, the conversation was perfect for anyone at any point in their career. So number one, seek support. It is your responsibility to get good supervision and counsel, especially when you are just starting out. 2, don't resist learning the politics of the organization. Learn politics by building relationships. And 3, listen and see where you can be of service. Being in support of others, you may find opportunity for yourself. Bonus takeaway, you cannot do life alone. Welcome to the Liberated Success family, Valerie. Welcome to our beautiful community. So glad to have you here. Folks, listen, you need to go pick up Valerie's book, Power of Networking from the Inside Out, Networking to Achieve Mutually Beneficial Results. You know where it's at, right? Amazon. It's there. Go get it. All right. Thank you to everyone who came through to our part 1 of the New York City Civil Service 101. Our presenters were outstanding, and the participation was amazing. Don't miss part 2, happening this Monday at 5 p.m. You know what you got to do to get the webinar link. You've got to register. Zoom link in my bio. And then we have 2 more webinars happening in November. We have Financing Your Higher Education and How to Write an Effective College Essay. Again, our webinars are free. You just have to register, and the link is in the bio. All right, I'm not going to hold you much longer, but listen, if you like this video, show us some love with a donation. All of Liberated Success programming is supported by donations from our community. The link is in the bio, and it's the first comment on Facebook. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. We will save ourselves. You know what we do. We wash our hands. We physically distance. We wear our masks. All Black Lives Matter. And vote Biden-Harris. We like a week and a half out. Let's get it done. Bye. See you next week.
One whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates.